Hi, my name is Michał Grela, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of IT Leadership Insights by Future Processing. Today we're going to talk about the challenges of building software for the insurance industry. This sector is particularly heavily exposed to digital transformation. Technology is everywhere already, and people, especially young people, do expect digitization also in aspects such as their insurance, both in B2B and B2C reality, of course. And in the meantime, with trends such as AI and blockchain and big data, they continue to disrupt technology after industry after industry. At the same time, young insurtech companies are constantly trying to displace old enterprises and these global giants, and are keen on disrupting furthermore the landscape altogether. I've even heard a quote that insurtech is a threat that inspires, and I'm curious to find out what my guest Jay Antonio thinks about that. Hi Jay, it's great to have you here today.
Thanks for having
Can you
me.
tell us something more about yourself for the start?
Yeah, so 20 years as in the insurance industry space, worked for a global insurer as an enterprise architect, and I was privileged enough to work in different parts of the globe. Started my career in Asia, did a lot of projects there, made my way to the UK, Ireland, where I looked after UK EMEA projects. With a bit of Australia and US. So yeah, so I've
broad
been
experience.
privileged to to be working in this industry. Yeah.
Wonderful. So, the insurance industry and technologies is definitely your bread and butter, and for sure, harnessing the benefits of technology, tapping into that benefit pool, can really help replacing, say, routines or take business to the next level. So, from your experience and perspective, what are the trends when it comes to technology in the insurance industry?
Okay, yeah, so there's a lot to do with improving distribution of insurance, improving customer engagement, because ever since the only time we deal with, there's always a negative impact when we're dealing with insurance. It's mostly when we're buying something that we believe is not required, and claims, right? So if we get into an accident or something bad happens to our life, then that's the only time we deal with insurance. And so there's a lot of negative engagement, and I think there's a lot of things done on that space on how can the industry improve their interaction with the customers.
perception.
Yes, and the perception, making insurance relevant and nice, for consumers. And again, you alluded a while ago that there's a lot of expectation from customers right now on how the industry should interact with them and how they should consume the product. So there's a lot to do with that as well. It's like frictionless insurance, meaning you're insured without even you knowing about it,
All right.
so to speak. So there's a lot to do with that space. And then of course you've got the technologies like AI and machine learning trying to improve operations, trying to improve how underwriters look at risk. So that they can improve their risk appetite and how they take on new insured. So there's a lot to do with that space and area.
So tech-wise, it sounds like there's a lot going on, plenty of opportunity. Nevertheless, looking at the state of art in the industry, I can sense that big insurers are still relatively reluctant when it comes to, say, incorporating this maybe not disruptive, but innovative approaches, meaning that they are rather not actively participating in ventures or incubators, comparing to, for example, the finance sector.
Right.
Why is that so?
I think the whole nature of the industry is given that you're in the business of taking risk. A lot of the leaders there are very risk averse. Not only in taking in policies and contracts, but also it manifests in software, right? So before a company adopts a very innovative and risky solution, they kind of want to see, okay, is this proven? Is this so they tend to follow others taking
There's
the
a
risk.
level of hesitation
Right.
involved. Yeah.
So there's a level of hesitation. That's one. Second is, we need to bear in mind that a lot of these organizations would have, a multitude of old systems. So it's
Heritage.
exactly. So it's difficult to let me adopt this new cool solution. How will that work with my existing solution? Do I replace it? So there's a bit of that as well. If you're, I think, coming from a young company wherein you don't have a lot of baggage, then it's kind of easy for you to
Be
more agile and
Yeah.
adopt a lot of these new techs. So I think there's obviously a lot more reasons, but I think those are the two main reasons why it's difficult to
Yeah.
to move into that.
So on the one hand side, the big insurers are, say, fearing of losing part of their business to disruptors, but on the other hand side, they just can't allow themselves to be more flexible because of some restraints and environmental conditions when they are already functioning.
Yeah, I mean, like I started my company last year, right?
Yeah.
So I'm categorized, as a startup, offering technical solutions to the insurance industry. So what I've observed, right, in that is they're starting to become more of a collaboration, right?
All right.
And partnership with the
That's a
startups,
trend.
insurtechs, big companies. So I think the big companies are now starting to realize that the only way we can really innovate and adjust is if we start looking at these small companies, right? Who are riskier and doing something different, right? Rather than going with the norm, because if they go with the normal solutions that's out there, then they're no different to other insurance companies, right? So I think they're starting to look at the tech startups and the insurtechs to say, okay, what value proposition are they doing, and is that something that I can collaborate with? But I think there's a bit of care that's going on. I mean, a big company won't, I think, directly work with a startup. So what they do is they put up programs, right? Accelerator programs, incubator programs, wherein there's a bit of de-risking that's happening, right? So the programs will de-risk will vet the startups first.
Yeah.
And vet the startups first, and then kind of de-risk the whole engagement, right? And to be honest, that's how I got my first pilot customer, is through this incubator program, right? So it's really great for a startup because you get to explain and pitch your idea to a number of startups who are already, a number of big companies who are already there to look at companies
That's a
like
win-win
yourself.
situation because on one hand they are not risking the core,
Right,
say,
yes, exactly.
endeavor, and on the other hand side they can allow themselves for more nimble action.
Exactly, and they can have a sandbox, for example, or try the solution there, and then if that's really good, that's really okay. Let me try to incorporate it into my core landscape.
It's a very positive thing that the industry is getting there.
Correct, yeah, and
collaborations.
The important thing is just recognition, right? And to be honest, I think where this is going to, it's not insurtechs taking over. It's more of who can partner better with the big insurance companies and offer something to the market. So I think whoever can do that collaboration properly is the one who's going to really thrive in the next coming years.
And were we to focus more on the software side of this market environment, what are the challenges, or what's the situation when it comes to building a software solution? What's important for the industry of insurance?
There's really nothing specific. When it comes to software development, there's really nothing specific to insurance. I mean, they could talk about regulations and stuff like that, but just look at regulations as part of your requirements. Just build it, So and get on with it. So I think the challenges would be if you would compare it with a new company, right? Nothing there, then okay, greenfield, do whatever, right? But you are dealing with a big company with a lot of baggage, right? So that's where the challenge is, right? There's a lot of baggage that you need to navigate your way through. And second thing is the mindset and mentality. They don't have the same agility as a startup, right? In the big company, you have to go through a lot of bureaucracy, and you have to go through a lot of process to get something done and
Yeah.
even approved. So I've been exposed into both worlds, and I see the difference, right? So
It's hard to find balance.
exactly. And especially for a big company, it's like, how do I operate like a startup? Is the main challenge, and how do I ensure that what I'm building is maintainable and secure and everything, all that good stuff, right? Whilst being as agile as possible, So that's a tricky thing to navigate your way through. But back to your question, it's the baggage that you have, right? That's the most difficult part to navigate your way through, and the mindset, the mentality, the culture, right, in that company. So I think those are the two things that's something that's quite challenging when dealing with big companies.
Okay, and only then you can talk about this level below of say adapting to this omnichannel distribution, or maybe with the customer expectations, dealing
Right,
with that,
right.
and data security. Only that's the other.
Yeah, and those aspects, once you I think figure out what you want to do with the systems that you have already, and what you want to bring in, and how they would all interoperate properly. But that's all underpinned by what's your business vision. What's your where do you want to take your business? How do you want to be relevant to your customers? How do you want to be relevant with your partners? And where do you want to take your business? Because your IT strategy should always match your business strategy,
yeah.
right? So whether you're going omni-channel, whether you want to improve your risk appetite, whether you want to explore new markets, that's all there, right? But you need to understand where your business goes would want to go to, so that you can have the IT structure to support it. And I think the reverse as well is like your business understanding where IT is coming from, so that you can both navigate navigate the waters properly,
yeah.
right? So and yeah, so I think that's that, yeah.
And when it comes to further down the road of building this software, are there any specifics to consider, meaning like best practices in the industry, meaning architecture or infrastructure is like a standard to adopt, or what's your experience?
No, I don't think there's anything specific to insurance as compared to
Okay.
other. No, I don't think there's anything really specific. I mean, you could again talk about it's highly regulated and everything. Again, requirements. It's understanding your business, understanding your constraints, and then building for that. But I would always, in my career, these are the, I think, top things that I saw that makes a successful project or program. One is if your IT and business are going hand in hand, proper partnership to deliver something. Okay. I see projects, and I've been involved in projects, especially when I was young, wherein I'm just coding away and I'm not understanding what
Why?
I'm coding for.
Yeah.
I understand the logic of that component, but what's the
Happens
end?
very often.
Right? So there's one story that I heard, right, and I'm gonna tell that, and I'm
Go for
probably
it.
gonna screw this up, right? So Apollo 11, right? So the Apollo 11, the one that went to the moon and everything. So in this room in NASA, you have scientists, you have the astronauts, you have the engineers and everything. All a lot of people. And then the general walks in, trying to observe what's happening. And then he saw this man, a janitor, mopping the floor, right? And then he asked, "What are you doing here?" And then your man said, "I'm sending someone to the moon." That's a very inspiring story, because everyone has that same vision. Right? I'm cleaning the floor. I don't care. I'm doing that code. I'm doing this, but my vision is to get to that.
Why?
Exactly. Yeah. Right? And we sometimes neglect that. Right? Sometimes we neglect that, wherein we're so consumed on how do I make this work without understanding the bigger picture.
So understanding the picture and understanding why, that's the first thing.
Right, that's the first thing. Where was I now? Okay, sorry. Second thing is stop building big systems.
Okay.
Stop building big systems. I mean, we are in this situation because we have a multitude of big systems running in silo. And we're trying to fix this by replacing it with another big system. It's
That's not
like,
the way to go, yeah.
yeah, definition of insanity, right? So do the same thing, different results. It's like let's start to break that cycle and start building ecosystems versus systems. I mean, I'm always passionate about that. Ecosystems versus big systems, and data centricity versus application centricity. It's like put data at the middle. That is your DNA. That is how you define your structure. That is how you define your solution, right? And build around that, right? Build around that so that you can easily recycle your systems, right? The reason why it's difficult to recycle our systems is because data is stuck there, right? So if I get rid of this, guess what? You're getting rid of your data as well,
Yeah.
which is your key asset,
Ripping
right?
the heart of the...
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but if you decouple data out of that and make it as an independent solution, providing service to the other applications, then guess what? You know what? I don't like your underwriting engine anymore. I don't like this rating engine anymore. Oh, yeah, get rid of it. Replace it with a new one. That easy? Yeah, because you don't have data there. Just replace it and get a new one, right? And then access the data from there. So easier said than done, but I think if you follow those principles, I think you'll have a better chance of succeeding. And again, it's like I think the third thing is surround yourself with smart people.
Okay.
Right. So
I like that one.
Yeah. No. So it's exactly. Surround yourself with capable people. Right. Surround yourself with people who cares, and if you have people in your team who does that, especially the leads in your team who does that, guess what? They'll help rally the team for you towards that vision. Right. Because you cannot do it on your own. You need like people who can help you rally the team together. And if you have a group of smart individuals working together, then that's your key to success, right? So again, it's like nothing very specific to insurance. It's just those key things that you need to get right first.
Okay.
And then the rest will follow.
That's an interesting approach, because yeah, if you have first things first, if you have set the start right, then you can think about adding stuff like implementing stuff like sustainability, scalability, etc. But without the the first level, the first layer, you can't build the house on top of that one.
Exactly, because the scalability, the security, that's I think it goes without saying that if you build something,
it's just a hygiene factor.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like you're building something. You need to ensure that it can accommodate the users that you're expecting. It can you make sure that it's not vulnerable to threats.
Yeah.
So again, this is it, and it's regulated and all that good stuff. So again, this is all part of the understanding the business and understanding the requirements and understanding what you're building it for, right?
Preparing to this episode, I also found out that Googling, reading online, and that what I found was curious is that in the insurance industry particularly, there's this thing with millennials and young people that don't perceive insurance as an important finance instrument. They just don't see the value behind that, whereas our parents that would be a must-have.
Yeah.
And now it's hard to convince them, and that's a challenge the industry faces. And I'm wondering if software is one of the sort of ways out of this.
Again, it's back to business vision. It's like, how do you want yourself perceived to your customers? How do you relate to your customers? I think it's first, and then software can support that. I think one, and this is going back to the trend, I think it's the frictionless insurance where you're buying a car without even knowing that it's insured already, right? So because if you look at it,
it can be hassle to.
Right, it's like invisible insurance. It's like I've got a car, I got into an accident, and guess what? My car, the dealer that I got the car from looks after everything. I just they look after the accidents, they look after this, without you being hassled, right? And underneath, behind that is actually an insurance carrier making all of that happen, right? Without even you knowing about it.
Yeah.
I'm buying a watch, I'm buying an expensive watch, I'm buying something, and if I lose this, okay, they're gonna replace something. I think it will come to that, But I don't know, right? I'm a tech guy again. I'm just looking at the trends and looking at how, yeah, and as a customer as well, I'm a tech guy and as a customer of insurance, right? So it's like this is how I think I see insurance will be relevant if it's like it's just looking after us without even us knowing about it.
Using technology to do that.
Using technology
Yeah.
to do that, of course. So I think that's where that's where it's headed.
I'm
I don't know.
I'm just wondering if you have any interesting case studies or success stories or maybe failure studies that you would like to share with us when it comes to
yeah.
this bit we're talking
A lot
about.
of failures. Choosing the top one. Well, success. I think your first project will always be, top of your heart. It's always close to you. So I started my career in Southeast Asia, right?
Yeah.
And my very first project is, and this was like when I was really young. I looked after a policy, admin, and billing system deployment in Hong Kong, right? And it's with AIG. So I went there. I went to Hong Kong, and it's a 4-month stint deploying the solution, right? And it's a client-server solution. And I remember one of my users is the toughest lady I've known in my life. She's so tough. It's like she's really strict when it comes to her requirements. No bugs, no whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I was the one deployed. I was the lead programmer deployed, and so I look after bugs and everything, right? And I kind of mastered the software. It's like every time I see an email already, just looking at the subject, I already know the bug of that,
Okay.
and I already know where to go to
Yeah.
and fix that, right? So anyway, the deployment went well with a lot of dramas, right? And then there was like a sort of like a successful sort of like deployment, and we did a bit of a party, right?
Okay.
In the office. And the lady, the tough lady, complimented me and said, Jay, you're one of the smartest person I know.
Yeah.
And that really shocked me. And that
Okay.
really, stunned me. And so that's I think
The success story.
it's because that was my start. It was
For some reason, I was afraid it's gonna end up bad, but
yeah.
I'm glad
No,
to hear
I'm
it
getting to
ended
the
up-
bad one. I'm getting to the
Alright.
bad one.
It's a quick bad one.
So this was
summarize.
just recently, and so I inherited a project. And so basically, it's in an old platform, really old platform. We haven't really looked at that, and now we're upgrading it to a newer policy admin platform. Same software, but new version. And what happened was, so we inherited the project, and although the new platform was there, they could not bring the historical data from this version to that version. There's a lot of, So we did a heavy data migration exercise. So whatever the previous team did, we kind of revisited that, and we did a lot of changes because there's a lot of issues on the old systems and old data that we haven't
Yes.
considered. So that started October. I forgot. I think 2016. So that started October, and then it lasted till Feb. Right. It was the worst Christmas I ever had. So it was like late nights doing data migration, fixing bugs, and
Yeah.
So and it's like, and then I just realized that after all of that effort, right, I just moved our data from one old prison to a new prison. Because guess what, right? After so many years, I'm going to have to move that again.
And that's a nice lesson learned.
Right? So again, application centricity versus data centricity, right?
Yeah.
So if you own your data, which you should, right? No application should dictate how you should store your information. They should abide to how your data
Not the other way around.
not the other
Yeah.
way around. I mean, and then you can control the redundancy, you can control the structure that they need, but you own your information, so you can recycle your applications quicker.
Thank you. I really like that one. Quickly wrapping this conversation up, of course, industry is exposed to some level of disruption, like any other industry, insurance as well. But there are trends that are definitely positive, and the industry is getting there. And the trend of collaboration is very beneficial to basically all the players in the market. And technology can definitely boost that up. but when done right and when you have this insurtech mindset adopted. Am I right?
Yes, insurtech mindset adopted, and I think we need to. I think we also need to focus on the problem rather than the solution or what you want to get to, because sometimes, we're throwing in like AI, blockchains just for the sake of it,
Blah, 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 yeah.
right? The buzzwords, rather than, okay, here's a problem and here's what I want to achieve, and then let me look for a cool solution that's gonna, So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, sir.
Thanks.
And thank you, our viewers, for watching this episode of IT Leadership Insights by Future Processing. If you found it useful, please don't hesitate to share it, and please drop us a line if you have an idea for another interesting topic. Thank you.